The first one is what's happening now in Sudan. It is heart-wrenching and heart-breaking. Hundreds of thousands of people so far have been killed in the fight in Sudan. Millions of people have been displaced. And yet more to come. And there is no end in sight for what is happening in Sudan. A whole nation of, 40 million, 30 million people are paying the price of selfish adventures of two men, two generals, who are fighting with each other and making the nation pay the price. Now, I want to remind you, the same two generals now are fighting in Sudan. First, they orchestrated a coup d'etat against people in Sudan in 2019 when people revolted against the old dictator, Omar al-Bashir, and demanded freedom and economic success. Those two generals took over. They basically foiled any attempt by people to have a democratic government. Second, they collaborated with some Gulf countries to send Sudanese soldiers to Yemen to fight people in Yemen. And now, the two generals who worked with each other for decades now are fighting over power, overlooking the interest of their own people. So much so that most areas, urban areas in Sudan have become, stayed in ruins. In ruins. Now that I'm speaking to you, a city in the western part of Sudan, Al-Fashir, is being besieged by what is known as RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, and they are targeting civilians. No person can leave the city. And those who are staying in the city are trapped. No water, no food, no hospitals, nothing at all. And the number of casualties is adding up minute by minute, surpassing what happened in Gaza, surpassing the number of casualties in Gaza. And mind you, my dear brothers and sisters, there are few Arab countries from the Gulf region that are basically fueling the fight by providing weapons to one side against the other. For whose interest? No one knows. For the interest of the shaitan. They take money from their own budget, from oil revenues, and they pay one of those warlords, and they encourage him to continue fighting till last breath, and they don't care about the consequences. Something that is causing a big embarrassment for the Muslim community. You know what some pro-Israeli supporters are saying? They say, look, guys, you were talking about Gaza and what Israel did in Gaza. Look what your people are doing in Sudan. They killed more people in Sudan than Israel in Gaza. This is premeditated, my dear brothers and sisters. This is done intentionally. First, to make Israel look nice, and number two, to further divide the Muslim community. Divide and conquer. Everywhere in the Muslim map you look today, there are conflicts. There is bloodshed all the way from Morocco and Algeria, over the Western Sahara, Western Desert, all the way to the Middle East. Wherever you go, you find at least two Muslim governments, parties, militias are fighting with each other. What does this tell you, my dear brothers and sisters? This tells you that there are forces, hidden forces behind the scene that are basically fueling those fights so they can subdue Muslims. As long as we Muslims fight with each other, we will not be able to be united. We will not be able to fight our real enemy. The other issue is in Syria, my dear brothers and sisters. I don't know if you have watched or seen the videos circulating recently on the social media. A few hundred people are demonstrating in Damascus, chanting anti-Shia slogans and objecting to opening a new Husseiniya in a Sayyida Zainab suburb, even though this is not a new Husseiniya, it is an old Husseiniya that is being renovated. Hundreds of demonstrators, radical, extremist demonstrators demonstrating in Damascus against opening a Husseiniya. Now, what can Husseiniya do to you? Why you feel threatened by Husseiniya? How it could threaten your national security? Husseiniya, where the Ahlul Bayt are being mentioned, Majlis Aza for Imam Hussein is being recited. Where and why this should be a threat for you? The irony is those people who are in Syria who are protesting reopening of Husseiniya, they don't protest against the Israeli incursion in their land. Israel is only 24 kilometers off the capital of Syria, Damascus. 24 kilometers. And occupying more and more lands in Syria. Every day you turn to the news, Israel has a new incursion in Syria, capturing a new town, a new village, a new area. Those Syrians do not object to Israel occupying their land. They have a problem with the small Husseiniya being open as Sayyida Zainab. What does this tell you, my dear brothers and sisters? The other irony is a man whose hand up to his arm have been stained with the blood, have been called terrorist. There were $10 million bounty on his head until 6 months ago. A man who has been involved in killing hundreds of civilians in Iraq and in Syria was welcomed as a hero, and in Lebanon, was welcomed as a hero last week at the White House. He was embraced by this president, and he was welcomed to the Oval Office. He was given a perfume gift. Maybe he smelled very bad, and that's why the president gave him this gift. And the red carpet was rolled down for him. Explain to me this hypocrisy. For years, the U.S. called this man a terrorist. And he is a terrorist. For years, the U.S. was trying to capture him and execute him. A man who is a big supporter of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. All of a sudden, now he is a great president, a great man, tough guy, as Trump calls him. You see, my dear brothers and sisters, in politics, there are no principles, moral principles. whatsoever. Politicians do not believe and do not hold any principle, moral principles. They always pursue their interest over their principles and values. And subhanallah, all of a sudden a man who was wanted, number one wanted by the US, a terrorist, who is responsible for the death of thousands of people, all of a sudden he became a legitimate president of Syria, being welcomed at the White House. The irony, the other irony, my dear brothers and sisters, is this guy, Ahmed al-Shari', who was known before as Abu Muhammad al-Julani. This guy waged a war against his own people in Syria for 13 years. And he convinced many naive people in Syria and in the Middle East that he is waging jihad. Thousands of young men gave up their lives for the cause led by this man. Men and women. They died for his alleged cause. Now all of a sudden, it became so obvious what jihad he was talking about. His jihad was seeking power and becoming the president of Syria and sitting with Donald Trump at the White House. That was his jihad. So when you hear those groups talking about jihad, let's not be fooled. Let's not be fooled. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all those organizations who do not follow Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And now history is revealing that the only group that stood by people of Gaza are Ahlul Bayt, my dear brothers and sisters. Followers of Ahlul Bayt. All those puppets, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, Tahrir al-Sham, Tahrir al-Battikh. Now it turns out that all they wanted is to get to power, to quench their thirst for power, and to hell with all those thousands of fighters who got killed in Syria. That was the whole issue, my dear brothers and sisters. I hope many Muslim world, especially non-Shia fighters, young fighters, would wake up so soon and realize the scheme being orchestrated for them, to use them as lumber, to be burned in the ongoing fighting so their alleged leaders can become president. They can travel to the White House and sit with the US president. So shame on them, my dear brothers and sisters. How many people got killed in Syria? They said we are fighting a dictator. Now what? Now what? You got a democratic leader? Who elected this new president? Who imposed himself on Syrians who have been fighting minorities, the Shia, the Christians, the Alawites, the Druze, basically marginalizing all minorities and putting his men, his aides, his fighters in top jobs. Finally, my dear brothers and sisters, I want to come back to Dearborn Heights. Some radical right-wing forces announced that there will be demonstration in Dearborn on November 18th. They called it the Christian Crusade, alleging that Christians are being discriminated at, and they are going to demonstrate to basically protest the discrimination against the Christians. What a mockery. What a mockery. What discrimination? And also they are allegedly coming out to demonstrate and to protest Sharia law being implemented in Dearborn Heights. What Sharia law? Wake up and smell coffee. What Sharia law? Dearborn Heights are two cities, part of the American country, ruled by the American Constitution and laws and regulations. Which Sharia law they are talking about? You know, my dear brothers and sisters, the problem with some radicals in this country, they find that the best way to make money and to fundraise is to stir the pot against Islam. And here you have folks who are ready to open their wallets and donate for their cause. They know it is not true. They know it's a hoax they are running. They know what they are talking about has no truth whatsoever. The only reason they do this, by the way, the one who is calling for this demonstration is a man running for the governor next year on the Republican ticket. So it is so obvious to me why they are running those demonstrations. They want to make money. They are looking for anything sensational so they can stir up the pot and they can get more money and more support. I want to tell those people who will be coming on November 18th to demonstrate Sharia law, I want to tell them, I have news for you. There is no Sharia law in Dearborn Heights. I know one place there is where there is Sharia law, where hands are amputated and heads are chopped off, and that is Saudi Arabia. It is your best ally. It is your president's ally. It is your president's sweetheart. Go and protest before the White House or the Saudi embassy. Or try your luck, go to Saudi Arabia and try to demonstrate there. Either you succeed or your head will be chopped off as well. But to come to Dearborn, in a typical American city with the American system ruling, it is pointless. You're wasting your time. There is no Sharia law being implemented in Dearborn Heights. Go where your country supports a government that is implementing so-called Sharia law. This has nothing to do. Don't come to us, try to intimidate us. Dearborn Heights are open for everybody, including Christians. In fact, there are more churches in Dearborn Heights than mosques. In Dearborn Heights, ask ChatGPT, it tells you, minimum 110 churches. We don't have 110 mosques in Dearborn Heights. Maximum 10, 15. So to say that Muslims are dominating Dearborn Heights, turning it into a hotbed of Islamism and Sharia law, this is a huge lie that I hope American will not be fooled about, will not swallow. And I hope people, especially in Michigan, will realize that they are being used and taking advantage of. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين